Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Glad that you could return for another segment. In this segment, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Terence Rooney. He's joining us here from Janssen to talk about Janssen's announcement of a comprehensive network meta-analysis, or NMA, at Maui Dermatology concerning TREMFYA. Welcome to Health Professional Radio. Dr. Rooney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Neil. Great to be here.
Well, give us a brief look into your role at Janssen, and then let's talk about this NMA.
Sure, thanks, Neil. Well, I'm a rheumatologist and an internal medicine doc, and at Janssen I head the disease area stronghold in rheumatology. And that's our group of experts who conduct all of our drug development and activities in the world of rheumatology, including in psoriatic arthritis.
I mentioned that this NMA, this network meta-analysis at Maui Dermatology concerned TREMFYA. What is TREMFYA indicated for?
So TREMFYA is indicated for the treatment of patients with moderate to severe psoriasis, suitable for systemic therapy, and it's indicated for the treatment of moderate to severe psoriatic arthritis. Maybe a couple of points I'd like to share, if that's okay. And yes. One about psoriatic arthritis itself, one about the network, what a network meta-analysis is, and then finally the findings of the study that we recently were delighted to share at Maui Derm. For your listeners, psoriatic arthritis is a disease that has seen big advances over the last 20 years, but many patients really still struggle to get to the target of therapy, which is remission. And it's complicated in that it can involve the skin, it can involve the joints, and it can involve the spine. So it's really important that we look at all of those dimensions when we're evaluating treatments and how they might be beneficial to patients. So the second thing I talk about is network meta-analysis. So this is a method of putting together the results of multiple different clinical trials so you can arrive at a single view of how different treatments might perform. And of course, it doesn't replace randomized head-to-head clinical studies, but it's impractical to do studies like that comparing many different treatments at the same time. And so network meta-analysis is a structured way to put that information together that's sort of well established in the field as the best way of integrating all of those trials. And what we presented at Maui Derm put together an analysis of 15 different targeted therapies for psoriatic arthritis across 23 different treatment regimens. And it built on a network meta-analysis that we had published in 2021 in the journal Rheumatology. And this was updated to incorporate more recent information, including from a more recent clinical trial, TREMFYA, as well as data for two new entrants to the field, the interleukin-23 inhibitor risankizumab and the Janus kinase inhibitor upadacitinib. The last thing I'd leave you with is the results of our network meta-analysis. And what we found and shared in our peer-reviewed session at Maui was that TREMFYA, which is a first-in-class interleukin-23 inhibitor, we mentioned its indications at the start of your segment there, ranked highest among the various 15 therapies evaluated for skin clearance. For joint inflammation, it was comparable to most other advanced therapies that have been developed over the last number of years. And for structural joint damage, an important part of treating psoriatic arthritis, it was comparable to most advanced therapies. It did rank higher than those more recent entrants that I mentioned earlier. And then finally, of course, very importantly, on the safety side, the established safety profile of TREMFYA, which is based on more than 5 years of experience in psoriasis and more than 2 years in psoriatic arthritis, was confirmed with no new findings. So this was well received at Maui Derm, and we're delighted to share what will have been the most comprehensive network meta-analysis of advanced therapies in the modern era. And we think that information will be useful to people considering treatment options for this complex disease.
Do you think those results will impact its availability tremendously?
You know, we're always pleased to share as much information as we can about our treatments and how they perform in clinical trials as well as in the real world. So while these aren't randomized head-to-head clinical trial data, as I mentioned, network meta-analysis is the best well-established way to put together multiple clinical studies. And given this is the largest network meta-analysis ever conducted advanced therapies in PSA. We do think it'll be really quite interesting to prescribers, patients, and others as they consider their treatment options for this disease. It's great to see how far this disease has come, but there's still a long way to go.
What do you expect, say, this year, for the remainder of this year, as far as research and as far as TREMFYA goes?
Neil, there's still a lot going on. So TREMFYA was approved for the treatment of patients with psoriatic arthritis based on a program called Discover, the Discover studies. And we built on that with an additional study called Cosmos, which has been disclosed in the past. We've got two other large phase 3 studies currently enrolling at the moment. One is called Apex, and this is further investigating the effect of TREMFYA on progressive joint damage measured using X-rays. A very important dimension of treatment efficacy in this disease. And the second study is called Solstice, and that's further evaluating TREMFYA in those psoriatic arthritis patients who are most refractory, who've already failed advanced therapies like tumor necrosis factor inhibitors. And that's an area of particular unmet need for this disease. So we'll be really looking forward to those readouts in the months and years to come. So we're still very actively evaluating TREMFYA in psoriatic arthritis, making sure that we can provide information that matters to people as they consider their treatment options.
Well, if you would, give us a website where our listeners can learn more.
Absolutely, Neil. Janssen.com is the place to go for information in general about our activities in research and development and beyond, including information about TREMFYA and psoriatic arthritis.
Well, is there anything that you'd like to add for our listeners?
Look, I'd just like to say, Neil, it's been a wonderful journey over the last 10 or 20 years for patients with psoriatic arthritis. We've gone from a state where it was difficult to even find treatments that made people better. Over the last 20 years, we've had a number of important treatment advances, targeted therapies that allow a substantial proportion of patients to really feel good and get to a state of remission, which is the target of therapy. Many patients still don't get there. So over here at Janssen Rheumatology, we're working hard still to crack that nut and really restore health for all patients with this terrible disorder.
Well, once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio. Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to speak again.
Thank you, Neil.
Once again, learn more at www.janssen.com, JANSSEN.com. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Terence Rooney. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Listen in, download at SoundCloud, and be sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com, Health Professional Radio.